three, maybe three or four things I really want to pick your brain about, right?
Okay.
And the number one thing is where and what time and how did you approach and then achieve those superhuman chops that you have?
It started with the Cub Scouts in Brooklyn. There was, of course, back in those days, was we all the parents found a way to get us that they could get away with it. In the community, there was a church, and then there was always a theater, a movie theater, or something like that. Back then in Bed-Stuy, and so what happened was that I lived across the street from a park called Robert Fulton Park, which still exists to this day. And in the process of growing up, I got to a point where I was around 8 years old, 7, 8 years old, and I had already been weaned on watching people like Sonny Payne. My father was a piano player who knew a lot of people in the music business, but he was a mathematician by trade and a statistician over at Bronx General Hospital. And so what happened then, that he would go out and, because I mean, black families, you didn't make a lot of money. $45 a week was a lot of money for us, but we had to watch out. But it wasn't still enough to make things meet. So he'd go out on a Friday, maybe even a Thursday if we were running kind of short, and go to a local. He'd scout out local bars where there were pianos, because he had this gift in the family of being able to retain and listen. Math again was another thing. I mean, to him, physics was doesn't everybody know this? And you come on, and all that kind of quadrants, this and that. I didn't have a clue. But to him, it made a lot of sense. And at the same time, he could think it, but mechanically, he couldn't do anything about it. So therefore, he couldn't fix anything. I mean, he couldn't take a wrench and just, it didn't seem logical to lock something down and stop a leak. Yet he could say why it was leaking and how many pounds of pressure were going on. And all of that made sense. So in the process, in the middle of all of that craziness, he could listen without ever having taken one lesson on a piano. Whatever anybody played, anybody. And he loved Stan Kenton and he loved Michel Legrand. This was in the days of the Columbia Record Club. So we would get, or Brubeck, and he'd play all that stuff by rote. So, Blue Rondo All-Electric, it all made sense to him, but nobody else, he was like, do that, do that, the take 5-bit, and all of this, that all made sense to him. And I hear this. Plus, so this is my dad playing live. Number two, in the summer, from, say, the beginning of June until August, or Indian summer in the fall, every Saturday morning, it was a conjunto of players, of drummers, hand drummers. We lived on a block of Haitians, Dominicans, and Panameños. One block of buildings. One block left of us, as we looked into the park, were all the Puerto Ricans, Cubanos, Colombians, Bolivians. They lived on the next block. It just went that way. In the middle was this cinder block building that had no windows. It was huge, and it took the street block was 200 meters long. This little place was maybe 50 meters wide, 60 meters wide, before you got to Fulton Street. They would play there from morning on Saturday morning from 8 o'clock in the morning, and they would play candomblé, macumba, all of this kind of thing. And always, 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 it was like, this is where all of the players in all of these different communities met a point of a related point in the music, the clave was relatively the same. And it depending on what they were playing, and it depended on the combination of patterns
Mm.
that were played. And this is like me at 6,
Yeesh.
7 years old, listening, because I didn't have a choice.
Mm.
It was coming through every building. We had no place else to go. There were at least one day I counted 20 drummers.
Wow.
20 had cungueros, bata players, and everybody knew. And of all, and the conductor of the whole conjunto was one uh, uh, player who played the quinto, the smallest drum, but he played it from under his arm. And he was conducting from that point. And this is our point of reference is you and me, you're playing in the band, and you play, if they're listening to you, they're going to feel the direction in which you're going. If they're really listening to you, and this is where the drums never lie. They can tell you, they will expose everybody, no matter what anybody says. No other instrument does this. And you're playing, you come down and you want a phrase, and if those guys are not with you, they're going to sit out there, and you're going to understand that this is not friend, this is foe. Down the road, we're going to have a problem because he's not listening. And I don't think he really wants to. He's here to earn, first and foremost, acknowledgement of the public that he thinks you have so he can take them for himself. Number one. Number two, he needs to make the money. So he's going to do something kind of close to what you want, but he's not going to give you everything because he doesn't really believe in the relationship. And this takes time to learn. But these are the things that I was learning even before I got technical facility. It was all about how to relate to each other through the instrument. And I had no choice. I saw it happening. When I would watch, say, on the Ed Sullivan Show, the Count Basie Band, they'd have 17 pieces maybe, and the drummer, Sonny Payne, was playing on one 22-inch bass drum, one snare drum, one 16-inch floor tom, a ride cymbal, a crash cymbal, and hi-hat. That's it. They had no rack tom.
Mm.
And he was driving the band crazy.
Yeah.
And all he was doing was blending into the band.
Mm.
And when he played those fills, and it just, the band was like levitating, man, and it continually. And it was like, it's something you realize that band been around for a long time. And that's how groups got better. But I still didn't understand that until I got into Horace's band, Horace Silver's band, in '68, and that happened to us. And that's the first time that I ever experienced an outer body experience where I could watch myself play on the bandstand, and it scared me to death. I mean, I thought, oh my God, I'm not. But I saw me playing behind Benny Maupin, and that wasn't Benny. It was Benny Maupin, and it wasn't Randy. It was Bill Hardman, John Williams, and Horace, and we were rocking. And that was the only gig Bill Hardman played because Randy missed the plane. We were coming from. We were in Denmark by then, but we were coming from someplace like Berlin. We did the Berlin Festival. I played behind John Hendricks and double because John didn't have a drummer and all kinds of mess. And we got out of there and we got to the Luna Park, and we were hitting it. And all of a sudden, we had been playing by that time at least an average of 2 to 3 weeks a month for 10 months, and same music all the time, and we got to know each other, and the rest was history, man. I mean, I'd always remember that because taking, I mean, that whole thing of levitation and out of body experiences, I can say, honest to God, has only happened to me 3 times. And that was the first time. The second time was with Mahavishnu at in Paris at the
Olympia?
very famous concert hall. I can't remember. And
Olympia?
that, yeah, something like this. And
Hmm.
it just, I was so tired. We'd been working so hard, and I don't know. I don't know if it was because I was tired or not, but all I do is that I remembered that we played the usual 3 hour set, and I don't remember the last hour I was there.
Hmm.
I mean, playing on the bandstand. I remember watching me play on the bandstand.
Yeah.
And then after that, we had a 2 week break because we had to go to Graham's to Winterland, and we were opening for, oh boy,
Jeff Beck, maybe?
Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, and it's that kind of thing. So that was a mess. But the thing is that the band was fine. It's just that when I was playing with the band, I felt like I was sitting in the balcony watching me play with the band.
yeah.
And every note was coming out properly and everything was working. It's just that I was enjoying watching the show.
I hear you, man. I have had these experiences in my own little universe, and yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Couple things I just wanted to say. My dad, where I somehow was able to tap into music, was my father was an accordion player. He was on stage at age 4. By the time he was 18, got in the Navy and everything, he had rebelled against that instrument, But he had that power, of just like they'd beg him to play on a Sunday afternoon. The Italians had come over, and
Yes.
he'd play a chord and silence the room and bring everybody inside, and people would cry. And I saw this power, and I think that's where I get whatever talent I've got.
There it is.
The other thing was Sonny was his favorite drummer. He was always talking about Sonny Payne. And then Don told this great story too about the Count Basie band where they couldn't afford to bring, when shipping or excess baggage was a problem for flying to Europe, they left the whole trunk with the book and the music in the States. And so everybody had their parts memorized and just was, didn't miss a beat, the real deal.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, man.
I mean, these things would happen. You go, for me, just developing as a young person with that mentality, that mindset. When I joined first, I joined a group. As I said, my folks wanted me to be part of the Kids and Block, and we decided we had to represent the block, and we become Cub Scouts.
Yeah,
because Boy Scouts were the big deal, but we weren't old enough to. So we couldn't get into the Boy Scout marching band. We had to get into the Cub Scout marching band, and we sounded god awful. But we were, we're gonna get it. And we understood in order to sound better, because these little contests that represented not just the community on the block, but the church that was behind the community, which was an Episcopal church. They would help us get our uniforms and stuff, and we were decked out for this one day. For the whole year, and it was called Brooklyn Day, and it was a day where you had to march through the community, and people they'd have this big thing that in front that said where the group was from and all of that, and so parents were walking right on the right side next to you to make sure that you didn't fall and you didn't embarrass them, and
yeah,
and finally they were so proud of the kids. And taking pictures. It was so heavy for them. They would take a day off of work, just to make that happen. And then, of course, my father would have to find another gig to make the money up. Or so my mom was a tailor, so this was a whole deal. But they had to play their part in the community. As we're playing, I'm finding that I'm playing with more and more with my colleagues, with my friends, and we're playing. And we gotta sound like one. We got to sound like one person. And this is like kids at 8, 9 years old, 7, 8 years old.
Yeah.
Trying to make street beats and sound god awful when you listen back and you go, Jesus, what was I thinking? And it starts to get better as the years come on. And then from the Cub Scouts, the Boy Scouts, to moving out to Queens or Long Island. Then Queens in those days was still a borough of mostly farms for dairy cows. I
Wow.
mean, it was no streets. There were very few streets and all of that stuff in Queens. Going out by what was called, eventually became John F. Kennedy Airport, was called Idlewild
Oh,
Airport, and
yeah.
that was the big airport in New York.
Hmm.
And so we moved out that way because it was cheaper to live. And then we started to get into the marching and maneuvering corps, St. Catherine's of Siena, and that kind of stuff. And then up until 1960, by then I was in music and art and all of that. And it helped me tremendously for my practicing, because I had a couple of days practice in the wintertime for what we called individual competitions, where we'd have to show off our skills with rudiments and all. And I did that because I saw the logic in practicing the rudiments, and I was saying to myself, I'm still not where I'd like to be, and I practice on three different surfaces: a pillow, not necessarily in this order, but for a little while on a pillow, for also on a practice pad, which would have been a piece of rubber, and a snare drum, but with a towel on top of it. And just for and also because of just hanging around back in those days, being at Henry Adler's for a while, and just because Dad used to hang out with these guys, he knew Dizzy and all those cats, and I got a chance to meet Philly Joe. Or I should meet him. I just was in his presence. I mean,
Mm.
what difference did it make about me? But just to see these guys and what they would fool around with, and Mel Lewis, who was a very nice man to for all the time I've known, and Bobby Rosengarten, who was
Mm.
another great guy. I just learned that it was very, very important. I mean, and I watched O.C. Johnson play in the center of a drum. He'd take a coin, he'd tape it down, he'd play on the coin, he'd take a cup, he'd pour water in the cup, and he'd let the cup actually make small waves.
Yeah.
But the objective, and he liked to gamble. So it was always about money on the table, and he'd make sure that he didn't put any water in the cups.
Wow.
So when you took the saucer away, the cup away, the saucer was completely dry. But he was playing a role on the stupid
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And so I got into all of that kind of stuff. And then there was a guy by the name of Richmond Flowers, who was like stupid. He was in a marching corps out of Reading, Pennsylvania, called the Buccaneers. And this crazy guy, who ended up teaching at the Airmen of North Drum Corps, could start a roll on the side of a wall with 3S sticks holding down a 50-cent piece, and play a complete roll and keep the 50-cent piece where it was,
Oh,
because the RPMs was that strong. And he
yeah.
could control it. Not just, I mean, but control it for 5 to 10 minutes, man. He just, and when you heard Airmen of Note or the Buccaneers, they were in another world. All these guys did the same thing. They sounded like one set of pistons in the car, man, that
Yeah.
all worked, and they were fully timed.
Yeah.
Those things stayed with me, and I would go, okay, someday I'll do that. But then the question came, how do I get out of that, which was like turning the corner on a dime?
Mm. Mm.
So you're going down here and go boop, to making it boop, boop, and make it flow. It took me a second, and of all people to show me how to do it was Uncle Roy Haynes. He just said, "Don't play so many notes."
Yeah. Man, I was just thinking of all the things that you told me just now, the Fandia All Stars. I have that record
Oh,
too. I don't think I brought that one to you to get signed in Austin that one time. I brought all
good
your
Lord.
records. I remember just saying, it's doubtful that you and me and my records would ever be in the same place at the same time. So I hope you don't mind. Here's like
No, I
10 or
don't mind.
whatever.
No.
Ah, man.
It's been a trip, I mean, just all of these little experiences, and I go, wow, it's a 6 degrees of separation, man. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
You know, man, the other thing, it says here in your Wikipedia, whatever that thing is, about you
I don't know.
touring with Miles around the Bitches Brew time.
I did not.
Ah, okay. So then that's
But I
BS.
toured with Miles.
Huh?
I never toured with Miles Davis. I
Yeah,
turned it down, and I turned it down
yeah.
respectfully because I didn't think I was ready.
Mm,
He needed me to fill a kind of a dike in a hole in the dike, but I just I didn't hear it. You know, I didn't I knew I could do it, but I was hearing something else.
yeah.
And what's also beautiful, he did not pressure me about
Mm,
it.
mm,
I just told him, I said, with all due respect, man, I'm not ready to play with you yet. I still need to learn more
mm.
because I don't think I can do the job properly. And he said, okay, I get it. You know, and he never, ever held it against me. I still recorded with him.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, God.
And everything, I mean, things that would happen, it was just about, for me, I saw myself as learning how to, what he could teach me was more about administrating and running a band
Mm,
than playing with him necessarily. There's some things that we did in the studio at 30th Street in the old church with Gil. Gil was where the rhythm section played. I can't even remember everybody that played in that band, but one afternoon, what really stood out was we're there, we're tuning up. Miles gets a new device to electronically project his sounds through it.
mm.
It was a flanger phaser.
Ah,
It could have filled the studio. It was so big, you know,
yeah.
as opposed to this little thing on that's on a pedal now that you just push the button. Um, and the lines were not shielded. So of course we're not that far away from BGO on the other side of the Hudson. So of course BGO is being picked up by these lines. And of all things, as he's trying to get some kind of a sound out of it to come was Quiet Nights
Ah,
over BGO. And he doesn't know it's Quiet Nights because he's so busy trying to pull this thing together and he's pissed off at it. He said, what the fuck is that, man? It's getting in my way. I can't. And he's going through all of this. He's really talking to, what is that shit? You know? And he starts to hear, I know those changes. And he starts to play along with himself. And we're playing with him.
that's
And
amazing.
Stan Tonkel is diving for chords and everything, trying to get it all together. And Tio's holding his head and going, oh my God. You know? And at the end, they get it. And then it kind of fades out, but it's like,
Yeah.
he's playing on top of this whole thing. And all at the end, it stops and he's going, what is that shit? And Gil goes, dude, you played a G minor seventh when you should have been a +9, man. He's in the back behind the curtain, he's writing the chords.
Oh,
And I
my
went,
God.
God, man, I hope they recorded that. Please put it out. Never saw it.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, Miles, what can I say? They say he was an existentialist, you know, and it was just like, this is it. This exists now. And
Mhm.
that's what I love about him, you know, bluffs, mistakes,
Yeah.
and I'd rather hear an album full of him, you know, breaking and not making the note, you know,
But you know
than
what was hip too, Terry? That actually, when you were playing. There was a line that you played, and I was playing behind you
oh,
on the drum.
Directions. I was playing
Yeah,
Directions. Yeah,
yeah.
that's a
And
Joe
you were
Zawinul
playing
tune,
that.
right?
And what reminded me was that when Miles was playing his solo,
Mm-hmm.
he had a way to end the solo phrase with the chord that would start the chord of the next phrase.
Mm.
So you already knew where you were going. But you knew what you didn't have to play exactly those notes. But one of those notes were going to be played within that bar.
Mm, mm.
And he set you up for it. It was like a big red Swedish barn in the snow, man. Whack, no, you gotta go here. You can't, where else you going, man? You know, to keep the concept going.
Yeah.
And when I'm playing drums, that's what I'm doing.
Mm.
You see, I'm trying. So when I'm playing with you, I'm hearing, and I'm going to set you up. It's not going to be but up. That could be it, but it's going to give you a direction in which to work from, a springboard
Mm,
and from which to go. And I can hear it on the other end when you come back to me.
mm.
Call and response.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, I can't remember. It must have been in the 80s when I heard you say that. And I've never forgotten it.
But that's what we do. You
Yeah.
know, it's just no, it's not rocket science. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And the last time I heard him play, it was right on the money. I mean, he just knew where everybody was going. He knew where the changes were. It's so solid, and he knew what alternatives he could use. But through those alternative chord changes with the right notes, they were all relative.
Mm, mm.
You can only go there. I mean, that's what else? Why? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. He's my favorite. And you know, he and Weather Report in the 70s, I think, was the epitome of being able to, you know, bring all those elements together, from classical training, you know, from bebop, but in improvisational music. You know, it's always that line of Airto or Damu Mramau or somebody, you know, with the percussion stuff and just all those colors and flavors. That's, you know, that's my stuff. And that's what I try and do when I play, is to, you know, play some melodies based. If it's chromatic, it's Miles. If it's pentatonic, it's Joe. That's what I'm thinking. You know, oh, maybe Joe would do this, or maybe Miles would do this. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, and off of that comes Terry. I mean, actually we should prove it. We should do some stuff together where it shows that aspect of performance where it's a loop. It's something. One thing connects to the other, and it just goes around conceptually.
Yeah.
You know, and how all the notes have to fill in a certain way in which to continue to keep the same direction.
Yeah.
So I mean, in the future we should be able to do that.
I heard your discussion with it was Lenny White and some other guys about
we had a good one with
the
Garibaldi.
Jack Johnson session, which was Mike. Really great. You know, you were saying that it's like people were taking instruments out of their cases, and Miles has pushed the button, and you know,
he just just point to somebody. You're talking about Daum, and Illyrio was absolutely out of his mind. So he was just walking around the studio. But can you imagine being in a studio where, as you open the door, the first things you see are 4 keyboard players, starting with Chick, Keith, Joe, and Larry Young? I mean, that's the 4 keyboard players, and Herbie hadn't showed up yet.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like 5, those 5, you know, and they never got in anybody's way. How do you not do that? And Keith was beating the RMI up with the heel of his shoe because he couldn't get the sound out of it that he wanted. And it still sounded musical. I mean, come on, you know. And then there was Airto. And then, I mean, Badal Roy Chowdhury was there.
Yeah.
And let's see. Of course, Benny, John, who played 2 bass. Ron played upright, and Harvey Brooks was on bass.
Harvey Brooks, right.
Yeah, from Big Brother. And I mean, it's like, and it all worked.
Yeah.
All Miles did was hold the trumpet up to his chops and point at somebody. He never said anything.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if I was there. I wasn't alone. It was either Tony or probably it was Jack. Jack or Lenny, not Tony. Yeah.
Yeah.
Done.
Fantastic stuff. I listen to it all the time, man. I just love that, you know. All the, you know, I mean, probably the same sessions, right? From Bitches Brew through, what was it? Great Expectations, that track. And, you know, I mean, God, it's just some beautiful things. And moody
Yeah.
things and just
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. Billy, Don wants me to ask these things. Have you got a tip for young drummers to develop a pocket?
No.
It's just feel it or don't, right? Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, this is honest to God. You have to be told by the leader or a contractor, listen, son, if you ever come back and work with me again, this is what I'd like you to do. You know, and it's all yours for interpretation. You
Yeah.
know, we all go through it. We all have to understand that where we're coming from, and we want everything to happen immediately, if not sooner.
Mm.
Okay, so I'm gonna, if I'm a young person, I'm going. Don't worry, man. I'm not gonna sound bad. I'm gonna blow the lid off this place. That's what Sonny Payne did.
Mm.
That's what all these other. But they didn't think about. Well, how did the band sound?
Yeah.
The objective is to make the band sound good, to contribute, so that as a part of the band, if you're contributing as part of the band, then you've done the job and more.
Mm.
But you have to believe that.
Yeah.
Young people can't believe that.
Yeah. I remember this night when we played together in Florida. We didn't play together, but we had twin drum clinics, right? I played before you or after you or whatever.
Mhm.
But we went out to dinner. I think it was in Orlando, and there was like a bebop band playing at this club where we ate. And you got up and played on a little
Whatever.
Pearl kit, and you just sounded so beautiful, man. It was just perfect, And then, of course, when you exchanged fours or whatever they did, then it was like, oh my God, here's Billy Cobham, right? But the beauty of it was just how you made that band sound,
It was
Just-
important to contribute.
Yeah, amen.
Contributions are more important than the presentation on an individual basis.
Yeah.
That comes way down the road.
Yeah.
Because if the band sounds good, chances are you're going to get another gig.
Mm.
Somebody's going to hire you, man, because the band sounded good.
Right. Now, how about your school, man?
Right?
How about your school? Let's talk about that. You trying to get
Okay.
this thing, the Billy Cobham stress-free?
Billy Cobham's Guide to Stress-Free Drumming.
Guide
Or
to stress-free.
Yeah. We also have this thing, the Billy Cobham Art of the Rhythm Section Retreat.
Mm.
And what that is all about is fundamentally the same. It's like putting your powers to use in an effective way so that you don't have to overplay. You don't have to be strung out at the end of the day. And, oh my God, I left it all on the floor. No. How did you contribute? How did you feel when you finished? Could you get up and honestly say you had a ball, that you had a good time? What about having the best seat in the house and making it that? How do you do that? Do you have to play hard, or do you have to play loud, or do you have to contribute in such a way that it's meaningful, not only to you but to everybody else? And it's not about people saying, "Man, you sounded good." That's a lie. That first and foremost. What happens is when the phone rings and they go, "Are you free tomorrow to do so and so and so?" Then you sounded good because the same guy was in the band before.
Yeah.
They wouldn't want you to come on the bandstand if you didn't sound good.
Yep.
But now I'm talking New York. It's just the way it is, and I was brought up in that situation, and that's always what I take. So when we do this guide for stress-free drumming, it's about how to play physically correct, breathing, approaching the patterns that you can play, that becoming aware of the things that you do best and how to use them. And again, the objective is for the pros like you and myself to sit down, not to just talk, but we do in front of these guys and say, okay, now you and me, we're going to do the same thing. Okay. And it can be on Zoom or in real time, even better, and say, okay, let's play a shuffle. How you feel about that? You know, and let's play a shuffle where you remember the chord changes and you sing the chord changes, and we play as sing the chord changes to yourself. Remember the tempo, and we're playing together and we're trading. Where the fills fall? Do we have the same fills?
Mm.
12-bar blues. How's that work? Okay, man, you're out. Where were you thinking?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, things start to go open up. I said, gosh, no, man, this other dimension now. I got 12 bars. I got to remember. I can't. No, I'm not going to play a solo in 12 bars. No, I got to lay it up. All these things are going through until all of a sudden you find the guys going, and he's just nothing else is working because that's the only way you can remember 12-bar blues.
Yeah.
Okay, let's sing the blues and figure it out. Let's write the changes and see what they are. Let's hear the changes and understand what they are. And let's remember the changes and let's go back and play together without the changes.
Yeah.
There are changes here now, right? You got it? Okay. All of a sudden, on the fifth day, we got some interesting stuff happening.
I bet.
And that's where we go. And then we start to talk about the drum itself, the shell itself, the rims, hardware, space, the symbols, the relationship. It doesn't matter what the names are or the trademarks. It matters the manufacturing, what you have to work with, what you're comfortable with. What may be good for you may not be good for me, but the whole objective is it's only a medium. Your ideas have to go through that and come over to your audience, which, by the way, the first person in the whole room to understand what's happening with you is you.
Yeah.
And if you can't play for yourself, nobody's going to understand that, man.
Yeah, love yourself and love others, right? And that's the humanity part of it. The music is a humanity, not just art and science. And it's a love thing. It really boils down to that, man. If you don't love somebody, if you don't love what they're doing, man,
you don't love yourself.
Yeah, and don't play with them, right? Go play with somebody where that's happening.
There you go. There you go. So it's that's the stuff that this is camp of like, how do I learn to play better time? What do I have to do? And sometimes it's not about holding the sticks. It's about sitting on a stool properly. Many occasions where Dom and I tell the guy, man, your ass is too big. You need a bigger seat, or you need to get something to give you some more support, But you got to sit down and get comfortable. Let those shoulders come down, Don't try to beat the drums into submission because that's what it's going to sound like. They're going to respond to you in that way.
Yeah.
So try to draw the sound out. Duh, duh, duh. And then we go through that, and eventually it comes.
Yeah. What about writing, Billy? You've always set yourself up for such wonderful drumming in your writing,
Yeah. Well, the objective of for me, which again, I was blessed, and to be in bands with Ron Carter, Roland Hanna, Hubert Laws, Tom McIntosh, Jimmy Owens, Thad Jones, Richard Dave, all these people where they go, hey, what you doing? It was with love that they were kicking my butt. You stupid? You're not just a drummer. You're a musician. Write some music and then you'll understand better. And it was tough love. The next thing I know, I'm going from Phil Ramone's place on 48th Street to A&R 52nd and doing one thing or the other for these guys, and they never said thanks. They'd always do something like this, say, okay, next week, are you free? And it would be like one thing after another. And that was the thanks, was that you're being called not just to play. The respect was in the fact that you got the date, you knew what time it was, and they knew that you, in order to play the date at 10 o'clock, hypothetically, you would be there at 9:30, setting up your gear. and by 9:45, you'd be ready to go.
Yeah.
I mean, because you knew the studio, you knew the scene, and they could trust you with that very, very important element of like, hey, they're looking good in the eyes of the promoters or the contractors. And it led right on up into the marketing companies. And okay, call that kid over there, that you had last week or 2 months ago who did so and so for Kellogg's and this. And that's how I got it, and these are the things that I learned. And I would always it was always important for me to be disciplined. But again, the Army helped me a lot. I had Roy Haynes come to the Army band, and we had a rehearsal band, and I thought I was God's gift until he sat down at the drum set. And the man, and we're playing, I'm playing on the little 20-inch bass drum and the 378th Army band. God, a lot of these cats went to the Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey Circus, all kinds of stuff like this. And we're playing just charts from Lalo Schifrin that was handed to us. And I thought I had it down. And then Roy came and played the charts, never even looked at the charts.
Damn.
Like that. And he's playing. He didn't play down, take it out, down, take it. He played ba 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 doom doom da 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 da, and the band just went. And everybody seemed like this. All the chairs just went up in the air, man. They were just sitting there, and he was burning. And I went, my God, I don't know nothing. I have no idea, what's going on. And he was playing maybe 30-40% less than I was, but all the notes were in the right place.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I've been trying to get this thing together. We've been rehearsing this all week, and he comes in here and doesn't look at a note.
Yeah.
Not one.
Just hears it. Yeah.
Those things, it's not like, oh man, I'm awful. It stayed with me like, oh boy, I know I can't do that, but I know where I could be if I chose just the right notes. And again, they kept telling me, you just got to play the right notes at the right time.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's an experience.
Yeah, sure, man.
An experience thing, right? I mean, I've gone in where, there's a whole lot of black written on my part, like little X's and 16th notes and all that junk.
Yes,
and,
I know.
Like it was some trombone player wrote that damn chart. And so I'm trying to play what he wrote and it's just not happening, No. And then we take a coffee break and I'm fooling around and just something comes from whatever the groove was of the song, and I start playing this, and the artist comes out and just goes, wait, stop, everybody, this is the beat I want to use for this thing. And I'm just messing around during the coffee break, but that's where the shit happens, the magic happens there. So, I mean, you have this mentality of going in like, I have to play this, I have to play all these 16th notes and X's and, blah, blah, blah. And no, you don't, that was just a guide.
Yeah, it'll take care of itself. I mean, that's what the rest of the band's for. You just need to choose what you need to do. It's like cherry picking what you need.
Yeah.
And then it's there.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yep.
That's what it's all about.
That note placement thing, man, the precision of note placement, I think, is really important. The space between the notes, and that's something I'm still working on, just still.
Oh, for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, yeah.
That's all part of. I mean, that's the price we pay. I got no problem with that. Because the more you get closer to that to that horizon, you're making progress. You'll never know when the end is because as far as, that's the beauty for me. I believe that the horizon will always be moving forward until the lights go out.
Yeah.
But I will have gotten farther than I ever dreamt I could get.
Yeah.
So I'm good with that.
Yeah. Man, I think the rest of the world is good with you being good with that. Billy, I love you, man. And like I said, you will always be the best, and that's it.
Well,
You know?
I mean,
I mean, there's
we can
been a
only
lot of-
do what we can do.
Yeah.
You know, if anything, we talk about what helps to advance the art form. Why not?
Yeah.
You know, so I'm good.
Yeah.
Same for you. You know, we don't talk about this stuff just for the hell of it. I mean, it's just trying to share information with most of the people who never even thought about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I always try and be kind, but I'm thinking, if there was like 6 neurosurgeons talking, we wouldn't know what the hell they're talking about. But for us, this is serious as life and death, right? So,
there you go. There you go.
Dig it.
That's
or
what it's all about, man.
How do people get in touch with you about the school?
Billy Cobham at Mac.com.
Okay.
Okay, there's also there is a website, believe it or not. It's the www.billycobham.com.
Okay. Thank you, and on behalf of all drummers, I thank you.
Okay, I'll tell them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care. Take care.
Okay. God bless.